Good evening, 12s, and welcome to the Seahawks 360 podcast. I'm Candace Higgins,
And I'm Tino Ganasius.
and we are back to discuss the Texans preview. Coming up here, we were not able to record that last game, so that means we probably got quite a bit of thoughts on where this team is. Excited to catch up with you, Tino. Know our schedule's been crazy, but there's nothing
Mm-hmm.
better to me than talking Seahawks football. So looking at this upcoming matchup, what stands out to you as how are you feeling about this team's chances? What are you thinking about the team overall? A little bit since we haven't gotten how any of the games sort of swayed you one way or the other, or are you kind
Sure.
of same stance?
Uh, I'm getting there. I'll say I'm getting there. I'm in a good giving Seahawks type of mood today. We didn't discuss that Buccaneers game, but those are two pretty good teams, right? I think the Buccaneers are a better team right now,
Mhm.
but those are two very good teams. So the Seahawks now 4-2, going into this game against the Texans, who are 2-3. The Texans have really kind of looked bad, not bad, but lost their first three games. First game was against the Rams. They lost 14-9, lost to the Buccaneers 20-19, and then lost to the Jaguars, which was the one that surprised people 17-10 and started 0-3, right? But they've since beat the Titans 26-0 and the Ravens 44-10. And so it's hard to really tell, with based on their record, who this team is. But as I dug a little more, I think this is a team that has some similarities to the Seahawks, right? It's a very good defensive team. Point differential, which I don't put a ton of stock into, but their point differential is actually a plus 47, despite being 2-3. And the Seahawks are plus 49 at 4-2. So, it's a team that is like built around their defense. They have a shaky-ish offensive line similar to the Seahawks. They have a lot of holes there. And not a tremendous amount of star power on their offense outside of Nico Collins. So I think it's a very similar matchup. Ultimately, I think the Seahawks will win. We can talk about that later. But I think it'll be a very good game. That'll come down to the play in the trenches as to who's going to win.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm with you. Glad you're finally kind of coming along. I think
Ish.
ish. I think the Bucks game, even though they lost that one, was I appreciated the way they were able to go toe for toe, really offensively with that
Mhm.
team, and that really seems to be one of the best teams in the NFL right now. They're playing some of the
Mhm.
best ball despite their injuries right now. Um, and then also that Jags game, which the Jags were kind of coming in hot, coming off that Chiefs. They won that game and on a kind of fluke play, but they won that game. And even though they've just got railroaded by the Rams here this morning as we record this
That was
during
bad.
Sunday Night Football, uh,
Mhm.
the the Seahawks might have exposed them a little bit. There was a lot of talk about the defense going into that particular matchup, the
Mhm.
Jags defense that is, and ultimately we ended that game with everybody talking about the Seahawks defense and how they uh,
Mhm.
sacked Trevor Lawrence 7 times. Um, I think I like that matchup in particular as we look forward ahead to the Houston Texans, because while I will say this, I do believe that the offensive line is probably better than they're getting credit for. Um, Once I had we got some extra time now, so I've really had a chance to deep dive into that Texans team, and apparently some of their biggest pressures, like 21% of their pressure, is actually coming from like the tight ends, the running backs, unblocked pressure, basically that has not been accounted for properly.
Mhm.
They don't really have
Mhm.
anyone outside of that O line that can block, and I mean the O line can barely block, really. So I find that
Right.
particularly an area that I believe Mike McDonald should expose.
Mhm.
Fire it up, get some pressure on those guys, and even if you don't blitz, I mean, get five guys or more headed to the quarterback, just changing up who blitzes, like Mike McDonald's known to do, right? Blitzing
Right.
different people. Like Drake Thomas got a sack on Trevor Lawrence like that last week. If he can do things
Yep.
like that, I think it'll go a long way, frankly, to giving the Seahawks the victory that I believe in a very tight NFC West they still really need in order to keep pace.
Right. Well, so we will revisit your boy Laken Tomlinson tomorrow night, since he's the starting left guard for the Texans. That gives you a
Actually,
little.
he's not.
Go ahead.
He's
Is he
not.
not?
He
Is he
got
hurt?
he just got benched. They just
He got
benched
what?
him. They
Oh,
benched
he
him.
did.
Juice
Okay.
Scruggs. Juice Scruggs will be taking his
See, Juice
place. He
Scruggs is
just
not
got
good either.
benched.
See, that's all bad then.
Yeah.
So here's the thing for me. I think I think that the it's going to come down to who can protect their quarterback.
Mhm.
Honestly, in this game,
Yep.
and the Seahawks have a much deeper defensive line and a much deeper kind of pass rush, if you want to call it that.
Mhm.
But the Texans have arguably the two best or the best edge tandem in the NFL in Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. So Hunter has 4 sacks, Anderson has 3, but Hunter last year had 12. In 23 he had 16, and 6 of the last 8 years between the Texans and the Vikings, 6 of the last 8 years he's had double-digit sacks. He's one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. Well, Anderson, 3 sacks this year. He had 11 last year, and he had 7 in his rookie year in 23, and was the number 3 pick overall. And
Mhm.
so, to me, this comes. I'm not worried about Charles Cross. I think he may give up a sack in this game, but I'm not worried that Charles Cross is gonna turn into, you know, someone who's just letting Sam Darnold get sacked over and over again. I am worried about the right side though. I think the right that it's not to trash Abe Lucas as I'm known to do, but I do think you're going to have to have Barner help on that side, right? You're
Yeah.
going to probably have to roll. You may want to roll Darnold out the other way at times, um, to keep him away from that side. They're going to have to scheme a bit, I think, to protect him. I do think the Seahawks will be able to do it. I'm gaining confidence in uh, Coach Kubiak's ability to scheme game to game. I think he's getting a better feel for this team and able to run their stuff better. Whereas I think with the when the Texans are on offense, it's ugly. I don't know how they put up 44 points last week. Right? CJ Stroud, I think, is a slightly above average quarterback. I don't think he's great. It's not my Michigan ties that's saying that either. I don't think he's elite, but I do think he's an above average quarterback. But you got Nick Chubb and Woody Marks as their two running backs, right? Those are two. Nick Chubb was a very good running back. I think those are two what you could call average NFL running backs running behind an offensive line that's essentially a bunch of stiffs. They got a rookie starting at right tackle. They've got or at left tackle, excuse me. Titus Howard was a first round pick, but he's been all over the place.
Mhm.
There's not a ton of talent on this team outside of on this team on offense outside of Nico Collins. If it's me, this is a Tyreek Woolen or Woolen game, right? This is where Woolen needs to, because he's a big corner matched up against a big receiver. This is where he's going to either create trade value or he's going to make the Seahawks want to keep him, right? I think Woolen can play big against Collins. I also think you wouldn't lose doubling Collins on every play, right? Shading the safety to his side the entire game. He is the one player that can beat you on this team. So between trying to get a pass rush and double teaming Nico Collins, I think the Seahawks can really shut this Houston Texans offense down. Am I 100% sure they're going to be able to? No, but that's what I would do if I was a D coordinator or if I was Coach McDonald. And I don't think the formula is very complicated in this game.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting matchup for sure. Because I would almost say that Texans fans would have a similar argument on the opposite side when if you're saying, how do you approach JSN, right? If you are the Houston Texans, you are basically just trying to stop JSN and have that be your number one goal. There's been a lot of talk about Stingley traveling with JSN. I'm actually fine with that because I really have been genuinely impressed with guys like AJ Barner. I believe Torrey Horton has been getting open from everything I can see, but
Mm-hmm.
just didn't get opportunities because Jason's going to be a primary read and he's going to be the more reliable guy in that situation. But I think he's shown when given opportunities, he's been able to take advantage of them. So them doing that doesn't necessarily scare me. To your point about how to going back to Nico Collins, I think the number one thing that you should do if you're Mike McDonald is you got your guys back. It looks like we do have
Hmm.
Julian Love is questionable. Devin Witherspoon is questionable.
Sounds like
Um,
they're gonna be back though.
yeah, it sounds like they. I do believe that they will be back. So with that being said, my thought is go ahead and run a lot of man because CJ Stroud tends to do better against zone coverage. And I
Hmm.
know that's been primarily
Hmm.
what McDonald has wanted to run, whether he's had his guys, but especially because in the recent games he has not. But
Right.
you've got Nick Emenwari back. You've got potentially Devin Witherspoon back. That should give you a ton of options to open up a whole nother package for you. If you've got the
Yep.
guys, play man, make it more difficult on CJ Stroud because I think this offense might our the Seahawks offense might look shaky in this game. Like
Yep.
I honestly expect them to struggle. I expect Sam Darnold to look kind of rough this game. Like it wouldn't surprise me
Look,
if he throws a pick or
this
two. Honestly,
this is the type of game where they need to be able to run the ball,
yeah, it
right?
is.
The defense, we know Al Shair, their middle linebacker from his Niners days, and he's a good ball player. But this team is not super stout up the middle, right? It's not built. It's built to be able to rush the passer, and it's built to be able to cover. And D'Amico Ryan's has a good scheme, but this is the type of game for me where the Seahawks should be able to punch them in the mouth, run the ball, and then put pressure on Stroud, right? And so if they can get out to a lead, the crowd is going, right? You're able to run the ball and control the clock. To me, that's how they should win this. Stingley is going to take away JSN, and I know that's blasphemous to Seahawks fans, given how well JSN has played. You're talking about an All Pro, a Pro Bowler in 2024. You're talking about a five-star recruit at LSU. This is not like a corner who's decent, and me saying that a decent corner is going to shut JSN down. This is the elite of the elite. There's an argument for him being, just below Patrick Surtain as the best corner in the NFL.
Mhm.
He's going, and if he's going to shadow JSN, other guys are going to have to step up. But again, when I look at this defense and the way their defense is built, it's built on the edges, right? They put pressure with those edges and they cover really well. I'm trying to run the ball up the middle. I'm asking my running backs, I'm asking the interior of my line to open up holes. This is a game where you want to see Zabel and Cross blow those guys open. The best way to shut down a good pass rush is to be able to run the ball directly at them because they're going to be hesitant at that point, right? They're going to be hesitant to get upfield in the way that they typically do. So I don't know. I would love to see the running game step up. I don't know that that's what's going to happen. I think that's probably what Coach McDonald wants to have happen. I think if we start asking too much of Sam Darnold, we may see him regress a little bit, as you said, especially against a team with the pass rush like this. Um, so it is. I think it's an interesting, schematically, it's an interesting game.
Yeah.
But I do think that,
Oh, you froze for me.
can you hear me now?
Yep. Yeah, you back.
All right. Sorry, I don't know what happened. From a defensive standpoint, I think this team is, it's a pretty simple formula, in my opinion.
Well, I'll say this: the run defense for the Texans has been really good right now. They are seventh in
Hmm.
rushing yards allowed.
Yep.
So while I think in theory you are correct, I think that's going to be a lot harder to execute in principle, especially
Hmm.
because this this running game has been very on and off. Right? I'm sure they're going to put an emphasis on trying to get it going, but especially if they plan on splitting carries with Zach Charbonnet again. It might be a long day at the office in that
Let
regard.
me
I
let me
think.
say let me say this though. They played against the Ravens who didn't run the ball well in that game, right? And they were up so big that the Ravens had to chuck the ball around. They won 26-0 against the Titans, who don't have a very good running game. And when they go up like that again, the losing quarterback has to throw. The
Mm,
Jaguars do not have a great running game either with ATN and an
yeah.
okay line. The Buccaneers can run the ball. Bucky Irving is a very good running back. And then the Rams have Kyron Williams and a good line. So I guess sometimes you arrive at those numbers because your defense is very good. Sometimes you arrive at those numbers because of the circumstances in the game, right? That's the one thing that I try to think about when I look at yards per game, whether it's passing or rushing, is what were the circumstances for those games. And we have few enough games that we can kind of track some of that still. That said, they still have played well against the run, as you said, and I think that's something to pay attention to. On the flip side, they've given up the fifth lowest passing yards per game at
Hmm.
175, and so the defense has just played very very well
Right.
overall. Um, so yeah, I don't know. It's a fascinating matchup to me because the teams have so many similarities. I think in a lot of places, I just think that the Hawks' defensive talent and their offensive line being slightly better is going to, plus being at home, is what's going to end up kind of proving to be the deciding factor.
Yeah, I skew your way. I skew that I'll take the systems of the Mike McDonald defense and the Kubiak offense. I'll take
Hmm.
that over what is a very good D'Amico uh, Ryan's defense, right? Like I respect this defensive system quite a bit.
Hmm.
I like McDonald's, he's really is a defensive kind of genius. Like the things that he
Hmm.
does and the sim pressures. And now I'm really excited to see what it looks like if you got when he's got Witherspoon and he's got Emin Roy. You could tell he was really
Yep.
banking on having those two together, and it really seemed to
Yep.
take a lot of the air out of his plan in week one. If you ask me, probably he put too many eggs in that basket for sure,
Right.
especially because Emin Roy was a rookie in his first NFL game. But you could
Right.
tell like Mike McDonald's really excited about that. And so I'm excited to see that. I think that can be a game changer. I think it'll be a play or two. I really think that's what it comes down to.
Right.
Um, and of course, it'll
I
come down to the performance of the quarterbacks.
On
Um,
that note, one of the I think the most underrated or the biggest difference this week versus the previous couple of weeks is Julian Love coming back.
yeah.
We saw we saw Ty Okada, we said it, like he can tackle, but he can't cover.
Mhm.
So there were a lot of instances where teams were completing deeper passes, especially in clutch situations, because Okada can't cover very well. And Love can, right? And Love doesn't get beat. And so one of the things that I think will help in this game is when you have Love and you have Witherspoon, you can keep the ball in front of you, right? It's that kind of, there's a lot of bend but don't break in this defense where they play great red zone defense. They let you get some yards, right? That's okay with the Hawks if they hold you to field goals, but they're not letting you into the end zone. And part of being able to do that is having that deep safety be able to, not let things go over their heads and not necessarily give up easy passes over the middle over and over again. And unfortunately, with Okada and Bryant, that's kind of what happened, right? We saw that happen quite a bit. So I think Julian Love coming back is hugely underrated. And it does impact a player like Nico Collins, right? Nico Collins can get deep.
Mhm.
And that's the kind of thing that the difference between Love and Okada could be a Nico Collins deep ball, in an important situation. So I'm excited for. Obviously I love Spoon, but I think Love coming back is a huge deal for this team. I would like to see Derek Hall. I wish that Derek Hall was healthy and playing in this game. He's been declared out.
Yeah.
Um, I do think they still have enough pass rush to be able to get at these tackles, but Love coming back is a big deal for me.
Yep. Yeah, I think I'll trust the pass rush enough because Nintendo also he looks like he's getting healthier, kind of coming on. He's looking more like himself as the weeks go on,
Mhm.
which is a good sign to see. But
Right.
to your point about keeping things in front, I really think that needs to be the plan of Clint Kubiak because the Seahawks really has what has made their offense so explosive is that play action passing. They're the number one
Mhm.
play action passing team in the league, but also the Texans are one of the best teams at defending play action. And so I think they've got to dink and dunk. Like what the offense we expected to see, like you especially expected to see
Mhm.
this, oh, just intermediate, short stuff, run game that they need to be tried and true to that. I mean, there have been some elements of the Clint Kubiak offense that we have seen come to pass, but there have been other elements that we have not seen at least executed as high of a level as we expected, right? We expected
Right.
the outside run game to be way more impactful. We expected
Yep.
there to be way less explosive plays and way more just dink and dunk across, the field. If they could do that, then I think Seahawks win this game going in a way because it's not going to be them feasting off of the explosive plays in this game. I don't think it's going to be that kind of game.
Right.
But I will say that Sam Darnold faced this team, and granted it was Minnesota Vikings, but he faced this defense, same pass rushers, Will Anderson, Daniil Hunter. and he scored 4 touchdowns. He pretty much did a lot of his work against Henry To'oto'o, the linebacker who is great in the run game but really struggles in pass coverage.
Right.
Hopefully, that's an advantage that Sam could, take advantage of again to some extent. I don't know if he'll be able to get 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, but
Right.
if he can have a play or two or a touchdown here, something impactful that can switch the game, uh, I think that'll go far if he's got that in his back pocket, that knowledge and familiarity with the system.
Right. It does help. This feels like a like you alluded to AJ Barner earlier. This feels like a Barner game or
Yeah.
a Cooper Cup game
Mhm.
or an Elijah Arroyo breakout type of game, right? Where you have someone else step up and then be able to kind of share the wealth and spread the ball around. Torrey Horton, I would like if they aren't able to run the ball really effectively, I would like to see them be able to spray the ball around quite a bit, right? Because like I said, I don't think JSN is gonna get off the way he has in previous games. And now, if he does, then that's great, and I think he's really ascending into being not just a number one, but an elite one, which is to me is a surprise. Um, but yeah, this is a game where Cup could have 8 catches, right, for 80 yards, and 4 or 5 of them be for first downs, or Barner has 5 catches and a touchdown, that kind of thing. Also, to your point about their ability to cover with their linebackers and their safeties, maybe K9 has a good game out of the backfield catching the ball, in the
Yeah.
same way that because a player like To'o gets exposed. I think EJ Speed is and Al Shair are starting at linebackers, but if they can't cover, you got to use those backs out of the backfield to be able to hurt them. I just don't think this is a 12 target JSN type of game. So other guys need to step up.
Yep.
I hate to say it, I'm still waiting for that Sam Darnold shoe to drop, and I don't want to be that guy, but I'm. This game does make me a little bit nervous because of their ability to rush the passer.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. Now, for me, my stance on even if there is a shoe to drop on Sam Darnold, I don't think that I have confidence in his floor overall because again, my expectations were for him to be fine. He's been one of the
Right,
best quarterbacks in football. I am
right,
sure that that's not sustainable. He's going to come back down to earth. I don't think he's going to completely fall apart. And so, but I do think he'll have a game. I hope it's not to Monday Night Football on national TV.
right,
That'd be tough, but I hope it's not this particular game. But I do expect him to have a clunker. Most quarterbacks do, honestly. Patrick Mahomes, he
for
does
sure.
have clunkers, and people don't.
Ooh, not this week though. Not with his
Yeah,
weapons back.
yeah,
This week he looked like the old Mahomes.
he
He
definitely did. He
he looked
definitely
like the
did.
old Mahomes this week.
Also, Raiders might be one of the worst teams in football, but
Can I just? This isn't the Seahawks thing, but can I just say you spent a number 6 pick on a running back who looks incredibly explosive in Ashton Genty. Every time he gets the ball, you think he's going to break 4 tackles,
yeah,
and you don't give him the ball. They give him the ball like once a series. I'm like, you should be feeding him the rock 25 times. By the time he's in year 5 of his career, dude's gonna be, he's not gonna be the same explosiveness. He's not gonna be the same dude. Use him now. I was screaming at the TV. Now you can tell I have him in fantasy too, by the way I'm talking about it. But I couldn't believe it. I'm like, Pete Carroll finally has his bell cow back, like he did in Marshawn, and he's not giving him the dang ball. Give him the ball. Made me crazy.
yeah.
Instead they're chucking it around with Gino all over the place.
I think that I think that since probably the Chris Carson years, it's really been
Yeah.
the last time we've seen Pete lean into the run game truly. Like ever since
Yep.
the let Rush cook thing, I don't know if it got in his head or what, but everybody keeps talking about how Pete Carroll is super big on strong defense and run game, and he hasn't been that way since like 2018. Is the reality
That's true.
of the
No, you're
situation.
right. You're right.
So I think this is more of the same. Honestly, I think, of course, he had a Hall of Fame running back in Marshawn Lynch, so he ran the ball a ton then. I, unless he's got that, but I mean, a lot of people say that they thought Ashton Gentry was going to be that level of talent, but it seems like that doesn't really make a difference because I know Pete has enough sway as a head coach to if they really wanted to
Right.
emphasize getting Gentry the ball more often, they could. But that seems to kind of be the tail end of Pete's story. Unfortunately, people just didn't pay attention to Seattle.
I don't. You're right about his last years. They did chuck the ball around a lot, and I don't know if it's because his philosophy changed or because the offensive lines weren't
Yeah,
perfect all the time,
yeah,
or the quarterback play wasn't, I don't know what it was, but I'm just shocked that, even just from a simple expenditure of resources, it'd be like if you drafted Eamon Wari, but you just stuck him in one position and you weren't trying to utilize how versatile he was, right? That you didn't blitz him ever.
hmm
Or you just used him in one way, when part of why you drafted him was for that athleticism to be able to move around the field like a queen on the chessboard, right? It's a misutilization of resources. People criticize that pick anyways because it was a running back so high, but
yeah,
when you draft a guy like that, like an Adrian Peterson, right, you got to just give him the rock over and over again and let him grind. So I don't know. I love Pete as a dude, as a person. I will always appreciate the fact that, he got us a Super Bowl, but as far as his ability to coach now, I don't know. I don't have any confidence in him anymore.
yeah. No, I mean, to your point, the misallocation of resources and misuse of
Mhm.
roster personnel has just been a common theme. Jimmy
Yep.
Graham, Jamal Adams. I mean,
Yep.
your literal example of Nick
Yep.
Memori was Jamal Adams.
Yep.
I mean, it's countless time and time again. I mean, even Bobby Wagner. I mean, times we talked about the fact that like just put the dude in a different position. Like you have
Yep.
a blueprint. You had a blueprint the year before when you let him go as to how to use him now, and they still
Yep.
chose to not do that.
Right.
So it's
He keeps
unfortunate
trying
that
to put square pegs in round holes over
they.
and over again.
Yep,
Mm.
over and over again. And it's not a piss on Pete day. I love Pete still. I'm with you. I was really rooting for the Raiders, rooting for Gino. But let me tell you something. If John
Yeah.
Schneider gets rid of a quarterback, buyer beware.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing between Russ and
Buyer
Gino.
beware.
Yeah, Russ and Gino, he knows what he's doing for
They fall
sure.
off a cliff. I don't know what it is about Seattle when they leave this city. Man, those quarterbacks play the worst football of their lives, like immediately every time.
I
It wouldn't even
I
surprise
think
me if
I
went somewhere else and then like played semi better.
I
Honestly,
think with Russ, I think Russ was just I think he was we had talked about it. He had lost that first step kind of athleticism
yeah,
to be able to get out of trouble, and he didn't realize it yet, right?
yeah,
And then he was also so overconfident going into Denver that he just kind of, he fell on his face. And Gino, I think, is old. We forget that when he first starting as an NFL quarterback, in his essentially in his late 20s, early 30s, right?
hmm
And he's not young. And so I think he's lost a little bit of, the fastball, right? He's lost a little
yeah,
velocity. And I think he got rattled over the last couple of years in Seattle. So you see him making decisions that you wouldn't see him making when he was having those really prime years in Seattle, and he just doesn't seem like the same dude anymore. So yeah, whether John Schneider was able to anticipate that with Gino, or if he's gotten a little bit lucky, I think it's probably a little bit of both. The other
yeah,
thing is with the Russ trade, I would have just made it anyways because of the amount of resources you got back. At
yeah.
that point, if you don't consider him an elite quarterback, you got to make that trade. And obviously, the return on that trade says that they made the correct decision.
Well, I'd say the fact that they got a third pick, with the way Gino's playing right now, is probably. I'd say that's probably a
Probably,
good
hey,
return as well. I'm gonna point out Gino's arm looks like it's kind of getting
it's a
cooked.
noodle. Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
noodle.
like it's kind of getting
You
cooked.
got wet
But
noodle
I think
arm
it's
now, which I
just.
did
I
not.
think they saw something. Because so in both instances with Russ and with Gino, there was a decline in play the year
Mhm.
before they left, and while both quarterbacks did in their part want to leave, also John Snyder was happy to show them the door in both
Well,
cases, and I think he's bet right. I mean, he
crazy
probably could have
part is
hung
he
on
wanted to
Gino if he
keep
wanted to.
he wanted to keep Gino though,
Yeah,
from what we know. He
he did.
wanted Gino to stay. Gino wanted to leave,
He did, but I also think
right?
John could have. John could. I mean, he was under another year of con. Like he could have kept him. You know what I mean? Like he could.
Yeah, he could have paid him
He could
too.
have kept him.
It's not like they didn't have the money to pay him. If
Right.
he
It was an
truly
overpay.
believed he was, yeah, if he truly believed he was gonna be a top 10 quarterback this year. They
Right.
could afford to pay him like a top 10 quarterback. What they were
Right.
saying is, we don't believe you're a top 10 quarterback, so we're not
Exactly.
going to pay you as such.
Exactly.
Yeah, smart. I don't know. I continue to look at John, and you're gonna miss on some things sometimes, but I think he's done a heck of a job. I really do. I think he's done a heck of a job with those sorts of things, and I don't think we give him enough credit. We being Seattle fans give him enough credit for a lot of the decisions that he's made over the years.
I think the
We're
only
lucky to
reason
have him.
I agree. I think the only reason why people haven't is because of the O line and how clear of a blind spot it's been and how it's set back the franchise for years.
Hmm.
He's looking like, even if he hasn't made the right personnel decision, which I think with Grace Able he did, but even if he hasn't made the right personnel decisions, he's at least made the coaching decisions to kind of make up for that, or found the right system, the right people to build around this clear weakness instead of finding people who pretend like it's not a weakness at all. Like you're
I
right.
would say the incorrect decisions were the choice of coaches more
Yeah,
so, and that could be on Pete for the most part, more so than John, right?
that's
We
true.
have James people ripped him for James Carpenter as a first round pick. James Carpenter, when he moved to other teams, proved to be a pretty talented guard, right?
He's
You look at,
approachable.
Abe Lucas, they spent a three on, but they've gotten a decent return when he's been healthy. Charles Cross picked at number 9, I think was a really good pick because I do think he's a franchise left tackle. He might not be the best left tackle in football, but I think this year he's playing like a top 5, top 8 left tackle, and
Yes.
he's potentially a Pro Bowler,
Yep.
right? You spent a one on Gray Zabel. That was a very good pick. I
Hmm.
think the Haynes pick, obviously was a bust,
Yeah.
but you're going to bust sometimes, on some of those. I think he's done a pretty good job as far as bringing Connor Williams last year. Who would have thought Connor Williams would have gone from what he was in Miami the year before to retiring halfway through the
Yeah.
season?
Yeah.
Everything said he was going to, we were excited about the acquisition. We thought he was going to be a huge addition to
For
the
sure.
offensive line. So for me, I think John has made some pretty good decisions with regards to the line. I think they've had some really poor coaching. That's on him too, right? Because he's a part of that hiring process. But they've had some very poor coaching, and schematically, they haven't been great for a couple of years now until this year. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I think he's done a pretty good job all in all.
To your point, as the dust settles between, for years, there's been this cloud of like, who's making the decisions? What's Russ? What's Pete? What's Pete? What's John? And as the dust
Hmm.
settles, I don't think there's anybody here coming out, anyone coming looking out squeaky or clean than John Snyder. Like, everybody
Yeah.
else looks like they were a bigger part of the problem than not. Not to say John wouldn't hadn't made, like you said, had made mistakes, but like
Right.
it's looking more and more like these issues that we complained about so much in Seattle, we're seeing carry over to the Raiders. And same thing happened when, it was clear ultimately in the end that it was that Russ was part of the problem as well. But it seems
The
like John
Hawks were
has been
taking,
doing the best he could.
yeah, and the Hawks were taking running backs in the second round every, for 2 years straight.
Yep.
You saw him take K9, you saw him take Charbonnet, and I would bet you that Mike McDonald would probably not. He's not going to overrule it, but I bet you he would question whether they should be taking a running back in the second round if they were to take one again.
Yeah.
I don't think that was a John thing. I think that was a Pete thing.
Yep.
I think John understands, the Milrow pick, as much as I love it as a fan and as fun, we've talked about may not have been the best allocation of resources as a third round pick last year. With that remains to be seen. Those quarterbacks picked in that range, like second, third round, typically don't end up being anything other than an effective backup.
Hmm.
But you look at Tyler Shugg in New Orleans, right? Can't even beat out Spencer Rattler. But it's not a running back, and I think that it's, as you said, as the dust settles, we're starting to see what was Pete and what was John. And I think a lot of the things that we were critical of and that were kind of goofy and ran counter to your kind of NFL standard, a lot of that stuff was Pete. I think we're finding out after the fact.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. But yeah, man, I'm excited for this game. I'm trying to see, since we're really more previewing the upcoming game. I think those
Hmm.
are pretty much my main points. It's really a coaching chess match to me,
Hmm.
and then survival of the fittest to some extent. Can Sam Darnold pull off even close to a performance that he did against the Texans defense last time? I think the
Yeah.
Seahawks could win this going in a way, because I don't think that the Texans have had. I don't think they've really proved anything in their wins. Like they really haven't played anybody of significance. And so if their defense wasn't as good as advertised, to some of your
Right.
points earlier, that wouldn't surprise me if Sam Darnold is able to carve those dudes up. I could also see a scenario where they absolutely shut him down and make him sit. Like there's such a swing factor.
Right.
But I ultimately don't have much confidence in the Houston Texans offense. And so even if there is some high highs and some low lows with the Seahawks or just a bunch of lows, I believe that the Seahawks are going to really do everything in their power to win this at home. Because really outside of week one, the home games have in a lot of ways been on the defense. You know,
Yep.
defensive lapses and that. Like that Bucks game was that was on the defense in my
Yep.
mind. And
Yep.
even though the offense struggled in week one, you could argue Rick Willen lost them that game also. And so
Yes.
it's the defense in my mind has to step up and play better at home. If the defense can step up and play better at home, I got the Seahawks winning.
I think they will. I think the additions to the secondary getting healthy is going to be everything. I
Yeah.
really do. Specifically, Julian Love coming back. That's no slight to Spoon, because Spoon is a much better player. But I just think having that safety, that guy directing traffic in the back, is and with the range that he has is really really important in this game. I ultimately, to me, this is going to come down to the tackle play and the offensive line. If if the Seahawks can hold up against Will Anderson and Hunter, as I said, Seahawks win. I think even if they don't hold up, but they can get to CJ Stroud
Mhm.
both up the middle and on the edges, I still think the Seahawks win. But if they can't get pressure on Stroud and he can chuck the ball around, and to your point, if they play too much zone and they get picked apart a little bit, and the Texans can get pressure on Darnold, that's how Houston wins. I have a 24-17 Seahawks. I could see it being a lower scoring game than that, because I think these offensive lines are going to have pressure. But I think it's 24-17 Seahawks. I think it's a close game. Ultimately, again, I think their offensive line is a little bit better. I think their defense is more talented, and I also think that a home night crowd is going to be um, riled up and ready to go.
Yeah, I think I got a 2013 is kind of where I land.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Seahawks. I don't the Texans held even Baker Mayfield to 20 points. So I'll give them some credit on that point. I don't think it'll be. I'd be surprised if they were able to get over that 20-point threshold. I think they'll get around it though, because I think that they'll find ways. Trust the offensive system. Um, and ultimately, I think you'll see some rust from the guys like Julian Love. We saw some rust from Devin Witherspoon. Uh,
Sure.
he looked kind of rough at times, especially at the end of that Cardinals game. Wouldn't surprise me if they decided to go at that and pick at that a little bit. I don't ultimately think it'll be the difference maker though, but I think it can allow them to get some points. Maybe the offense looks a little better than what we
Mm-hmm.
expected, especially maybe early on in the game. And I think as the game goes on, you kind of see the defense clamp down, get it together. Can I get back that cohesionness? They really haven't played. I don't think they played like 5 snaps together or something that from week
Yeah.
one before folks start going down and getting hurt. So
Yeah.
um, I think you might see a rough first quarter from the defense. It might be frustrating out of the gate, but
Mhm.
yeah, 2013 Seahawks.
Which will put them at 5-2.
Yes, which it looks like they'll need to keep pace with the 49ers, who are up right now 13-10 with the ball in the fourth quarter, 4 minutes left against the
And the
Atlanta
Rams
Falcons
too.
that you love so much.
And
You said what now?
I do love the Falcons at home. I don't love them on the road. At home, I love them. Yeah, and the Rams too. Rams are 5-2 as well. So in order to keep
Yeah,
pace, they got to win this game.
yeah, that's true.
They got
That
to
is
win this
true.
game.
But Cardinals are dead though, so there's that. Cardinals are
They're
done.
dead, dead.
Yeah, they're dead.
Cardinals dead, dead.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like the
they're
meme
done.
where the dude's poking it with the stick, saying, "Hey, do something." That's the Cardinals.
Yeah, no, I think their do something was getting Jacoby Brissett because that seems to have upgraded their offense, which is crazy to me.
which is bad. That's bad.
Yes, I
Well, they
know.
started throwing to the tight end finally. You got
Yeah,
the second best tight end in football, and you started actually throwing to him.
Kyler can't see over
Who
the
would have
middle,
thought?
man.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? All right, Tito, we'll get out of here, man. Tell people where they can find you.
You can find me at Tino Junior 20 on Blue Sky, working on that for those who enjoy this sort of thing, working on the baseball database right now. Got through catcher, first base, and second base, doing a bunch of queries, lots of fun findings. If you're into fantasy baseball, go ahead and give me a follow. And then hopefully, I'll be done working time to be able to live tweet this Seahawks game as well.
Absolutely. Be sure to follow the show on X at Seahawks 360 Pod. Also on Blue Sky at Seahawks 360. Doing live tweeting, trying to get some facts in here and there where I can find things. Try not to overdo it with PFF. Get some other things we can find of interest in there. But be sure to follow the show. In the meantime, that's it. That's all the time we have for today. We're out, and as always, go Hawks.
Go Hawks!